Good morning, everybody. It is January 14th, episode number 24 of LivLive, our second episode of the year. Crazy, super excited to have Eric Schlickman here. Eric and I worked together what seems like probably a different life ago at this point, back in our early architectural careers, and Eric has since built out a restaurant empire throughout the western suburbs that I'd love to kind of dig into. Obviously what you're working on right now in the space that you're in, what you built, and how that kind of connects to your architectural education and lineage. But thanks for being here, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It was probably, I don't even know, it was almost 20 years ago at this point. I guess it was 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, about, yep.
And we were at Goettsch Partners. I think that was kind of so your timing has always been kind of interesting, because you started at Goettsch and that was kind of the housing crash. That was the 2008 crash.
Yeah, 2007 is when I started, crashed in 2008, and we were working over in Abu Dhabi, so we were somewhat insulated, which helped. And then China as well.
Yeah, that's kind of how I ended up there too, because I was doing domestic residential work and Goettsch had lots of international work.
Yeah.
And then I believe did you work on Stellus?
I did work on a Stellus in Glenview. The last project I worked on was the Hyatt Tower, right on the river, right across from. What's interesting is I worked on that, kind of the marketing, graphics, and renderings of that tower. And then I left and joined an office furniture company, selling Herman Miller office furniture, and then my team actually installed all the.
And this chair,
that chair, yep, the set 2. Did they give that to you?
He gave me a good deal on it.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah,
good. But yeah, we then did the furniture in that building, so it's kind of the worlds combining on that one project, which was kind of cool.
And then how did this evolve into the restaurant dream, which started with 302 Wheaton, right?
Yep. It actually started with the little deli that I bought with some buddies. So I guess quick background, I always wanted to be an architect like most people. Sorry about the phone in the background, but always wanted to be an architect. In preschool, they called me the foreman. Sorry, not forum. Went to school for architecture, practiced architecture. And honestly, it was great. The people were great. The hours kind of sucked. And I wasn't as gung ho about it, but I loved space. And I think what I missed out on is I only worked at one firm. I did not give other firms a chance. So I only had kind of one experience, where really the best part of that experience was the people and the people that I worked with. My boss was great. But I looked ahead really at the partners, and none of their lives looked like something I wanted to have any part in. Not that they were bad people. It was just they were tied to this job. And what's interesting is now I'm tied to my job, but it's different because I own that, and I have some flexibility. But as I looked ahead, it was this just doesn't seem like it's right for me. And I was starting a family out in the western suburbs, and so I was commuting downtown. And so I just kind of thought maybe there was a design firm out in the burbs that I could then work at. At the same time, my wife was working for a financial company that her dad was the CFO at. And I was like, well, maybe I should get into finance. That seems like a cool thing, or you can make a lot of money, but no interest.
Yeah,
I got the interview. I didn't even go to the interview. There was just no interest in the finance world. I'm a design guy. I'm a creator. So that while that seems safe, it wasn't for me. So anyway, I joined this Herman Miller dealer, had a ton of fun, kind of worked my way up to almost, I guess I would say number 2 in the company, had a bunch of flexibility. There was kind of a broken relationship with me and the president of that company. And I decided I needed to leave. I always kind of dreamt of starting a tap house. I knew about craft beer. I knew nothing about food. And so literally where I was parking, commuting downtown, that building went for sale, which was like an old service station garage, and ended up, long story short, ended up buying that and opening up a kind of a burger tap house place there.
But then timing wise, then COVID hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So just backing up just a little bit, obviously knowing nothing about restaurants, my wife and I were driving home from a movie in 2018. It was like right around Mother's Day and her birthday. Everything happens in May for her. We were driving back and she's on Facebook and she's like, oh my gosh, Shane's Deli is closing. And one of the moms of the employees leaked that information, which she shouldn't have. But that's okay. It helped. And so I had never really gone to Shane's. It's a staple in downtown Wheaton, but for whatever reason, I was like, hey, we should save Shane's. So I texted a bunch of buddies, and kind of with 302 in mind, I was like, maybe this could be a good opportunity to get a little bit of experience, see if it's hospitality and restaurants was a career worth kind of changing for. And so 2 days or the next day I met with Shane, and then we came to an agreement, bought it 2 days later. And then while I was still working at the furniture company, I was at the register serving sandwiches, learning all about, this was my business 101. It was learning how to run a restaurant, learning how to work with people and manage people, pay payroll, pay sales tax, like all these things that I had no clue about business. I was learning right there in a very small little deli that had been around forever. And then as that kind of continued, I bought out my other buddies, and then started 302 in September of 2019. And then in March of 2020, we all know what happened there. Thankfully, 302 is kind of like Shake Shack or In-N-Out, but with a huge beer list. So we were able to do a lot of takeout during COVID. People were drinking a ton. So we quickly bought growlers and we're filling those up for people. Literally, I was standing behind the bar with a keg room full of kegs ready for March Madness. And we were going to do this brewery madness. Like the cooler was filled to the brim with kegs. And then all of a sudden it was conference championships. And I'm a huge Kansas fan. That's where I went to school. And it was like one conference just canceled it because of COVID. Then another conference. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think March Madness might be canceled this year.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did. So now I'm sitting on all this beer and there's no March Madness and we're about to close. So it was a wild time.
Yeah. And I mean, you had a whole lot of outdoor seating, which benefited you guys too. But I mean, I think so much of the story, and I want to go backwards again. I'm going to go back and forth on a whole bunch of stuff. But as a small business owner, and you know, in a lot of ways, my story is similar, just in a different industry. Like there was a lot of ignorance is bliss, but it was also the ignorance was kind of fun because you're experiencing something and you're I don't want to say you're like totally learning while you go, because you have a lot of resources and a lot of people that you're talking to and books to read. But if you just said, okay, let me figure out everything that I need to do to run a to run a sandwich shop, you know, before doing it, I don't know that would be as much fun, and it would probably be a slower grind in terms of figuring out how to do it, because there's all the intangibles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can go to business school, which I didn't. I don't know if there's some interest in doing that, but not really. I don't have the time to do it. So yeah, you can read all the books you want. I learned about the entrepreneurial operating system at my last job, and I've tried to kind of implement that here. There's only so much you can learn from that, because really at the end of the day, you're in the people business, both customers and your employees, and they're the most unpredictable, difficult part of the business. But you need them. You need to figure out, if sales are slow, you need to figure out what is the consumer thinking? How can I reach the consumer? just throwing stuff on Instagram doesn't work anymore these days. People are smart and, I don't know, lazy somewhat. And they want, not necessarily lazy, but I don't know.
We like to do stuff from the comfort of our couch and have it delivered to our door.
Exactly. Right.
Because we work hard all day long.
Yeah. And so we're trying to figure out what's the future look like. And with food prices rising and people drinking less, it's like, how do you adapt this? And so what I've taken, what I've always loved is good hospitality, like high-end hospitality. And there's a couple books out there. One is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, that my team read recently. What's crazy is, like, in any business, like, you could have a regular, like, kind of a run-of-the-mill architecture business. You could have a furniture company, you could have a restaurant, you could have whatever. But at the end of the day, most of those places provide the same type of service, but it's the level of service and it's like the interaction, it's that human element from the person on the business side of it, connecting with the customer. What is that customer feeling while they're working with that person on the other side? And if they have a good feeling about you and just kind of a good feeling in general, it goes a long way. And if you can exceed expectations through small things, like, so in the book, like, one of the examples was there's this couple that was going out to eat and it was their anniversary. They put a bottle of champagne in their freezer to kind of quickly cool it, so when they got home, they could drink it. And so they asked the sommelier at the restaurant, like, hey, is this a problem? Do you think we're going to, like, they forgot it in the freezer, I guess. And the sommelier was like, yeah, that thing's going to explode. But guess what? They must have lived close by, because he was like, I'll run home. You tell me where it is. And, like, I'll take it out for you so it doesn't interrupt your meal. So he goes to their house. Not only does he pull the bottle of champagne out, but he brings some desserts from that restaurant and writes a little note and leaves it for them in their apartment. And so now when they get home, it's like, what in the world? And guess what? That cost them next to nothing. But those customers and me telling the story, like, sells that place. And so it's those little things that if you just care for another person more than someone else and you show it through something, that is the differentiator, I think, in business right now.
I love that. And I want to come back to that too. But on that, I'm going to segue into kind of talking about the architectural education, because
that's a great segue.
Because you don't get that.
Yeah, right.
You really don't. And it's just something. And so to be fair, and so Kansas, that was a 5-year program, right?
Yep.
Same as Virginia Tech. So exactly the same. You did Studio 804, which is an incredible design build studio, which I'd love to kind of hear what you're still learning from that, just in terms of your own life experiences. But I realized that at some point in what we do as design build, designing stuff for our clients, residential clients, and then building it, is nobody ever taught us how to extract the program, really understand the needs of the client, because it's kind of a sales process.
Yeah.
And sales is considered a bad word. And so in our architectural education, now, to be fair, like, it's just a 5-year thing that teaches you so much about pretty much how to do whatever you want with your life, which is how you're a restaurateur and I'm doing design build, and other people are in finance. But you definitely, you spend a lot of time designing in a vacuum, where you're either handed a program or just come up with a program out of the blue, but you're never really trained to ask the questions, to really think about what the needs are. It's always, at least in my experience, it was always like, no, that's something that's already in your own head that you have to get out of your own head. It's like, well, what about them? Which is exactly the process that you're going through, trying to figure out what the needs of our customers now and in the future are. And obviously it's a good business tactic, but it's also trying to serve the people.
Yep.
Right.
And that's really the purpose of all my businesses. If you ask any of my employees, what's the purpose of what we do? It's to serve other people, whether that's employees like each other or our customers. So it is interesting, like, going back to architecture school, 5-year program, you are like 804, which is a graduate studio where we literally design, build, and then we transported these like modular pieces of a home down out to Kansas City, and then reassembled them. And we were doing all the electrical, all the plumbing. We went through the permitting process. We went through everything. So it was truly hands-on. But when you look at architecture school in general, what I say is like when people come up to me and say, hey, my son wants to be an architect, or my daughter wants to be an architect, tell me about architecture school. I'm like, you know what? Like, it is probably the greatest degree that you can get out there, because it teaches you so much and you don't even realize it, but you can do so much with an architecture degree, not necessarily on paper, but like Dave was saying, you learn sales, you learn marketing, you learn critical thinking. You must probably have some sort of design mind, which I think is really important for a lot of different businesses. But we're not only just like creating models and drawing drawings, but we're presenting to either our peers or in front of our peers, and to professors that will just rip us apart and be like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Or that's wrong. And it's crazy. Like,
yeah,
really
I always felt like,
yeah,
I always felt like the pursuit for the correct answer after first year, you're like that there is no correct answer.
I know,
It's
right?
an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
It was which a lot of that is life, and it's about exploration and improving and learning from what you did in the previous step. And then if you spend your life trying to guess what your professor is going to say about your project and trying to solve that before you present it, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some other question that's going to be asked that you're going to have to respond to. And sometimes the answer is just, oh, that's a really great point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No, that's fine. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, and to that point, if you're just trying to design or do something for one person, like, because not always in architecture school, like when you have a project, say it's like, hey, we need to design a home for this site. I guess the one thing that's kind of lacking is that there's never really a customer. And is the professor that customer? I don't know. But so I guess that goes against my point. If the customer is the professor, but you don't know, but the professors never really like approach it that way.
I think that's where I feel like the disconnect is you don't really know who you're designing for. It's kind of like just in space of trying to find what God would want.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
It's like, it's just what it should be is your pursuit
based on like the site and the weather and all that other stuff that we kind of make up. Yeah. Maybe we should start an architecture school and bring real clients in. I think we should do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think they just stripped it from a professional. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah. We don't need to get into college education right now. I've got a son who is about to go into college, and it's just like, what's the point? I'm trying to figure out, and it's so expensive right now. And I mean, when I employ a lot of high schoolers and college kids, and they'll be with me from like, I don't know, junior year of high school all the way through college, which is crazy and awesome. But then after college, if they don't have any connections to this person or that person, then they don't always have a job. And so like, really, it's all about who you know. Again, back to people. Like, anyway, that's the short.
Well, I'm gonna keep it on the architecture school and relate it to kind of what you're doing now, and even looking at that incredible space behind you. So I think it also teaches you a sense of fearlessness, that there's no instruction book, that you're gonna figure it out, and you can figure out anything.
Sure.
Which leads us to, maybe a sense of risk taking that,
oh my gosh,
that is exciting and also terrifying at the same time. Which I was fortunate that I had a wife with a solid job that was able to float me through trying to figure it out. But an example I would use is when you did 302 Wheaton, and I remember we had first talked about it as this gas station building. And the first thing in my head and my, which is, I'm enamored by you and your ability to move on past it, is like, that just sounds like an environmental mess, and I wouldn't even want to deal with it. But no, you're like, it's just a problem to solve.
Yeah. The very first, so I did a ton of with the art. So I'll kind of explain how a lot of these businesses came to be. Shane's was just a kind of an anomaly. It was something closing, and I thought it was a temporary thing. I still own it 7 years later or whatever it is. And 302, I saw this building and I was able to break down kind of the walls and what it looked like today and design it immediately in my brain. So I could imagine what this thing could be. And so when I pitched it to investors, because I wasn't independently wealthy, I was an architect, and then I was sort of in sales with the office furniture, but I had some money, but not enough. I needed to raise about $1 million to buy the building and then to renovate it. And that investor evening, I was not pitching, hey, I'm a great restaurateur. I can do, like, I'm great with food, blah, 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 blah. It was really trying to get them to envision this space as this community hub that, oh yeah, had craft beer and burgers. And everyone loves a good garage door and blah, blah, blah. But the very first slide, because this was a gas station and then a service station, was an environmental slide that had the phase 1 and the phase 2 complete, a letter from the EPA or whatever it is that's, hey, we're good, we're clear. Now there was gasoline still down, so there were 3 tanks on site. And this is all just, I love learning and like having the background in architecture and actually building my own building in school. I already knew like how to manage projects, how to deal with this. And then you just learned how to figure it out. Now you talk about risk. This was probably the riskiest thing I've ever done. I quit my job in March. That was a 6-figure job, and I was not getting paid. I was not paying myself during construction. I thought we were going to open by Final 4 that year of 2019, and we opened in September. And I had 0 money in the bank.
3 kids.
Very stressful. 3 kids, a mortgage. My wife wasn't working. I was working from like 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. on the building. Like I did all the painting. I did a lot of the millwork. I did a little bit of everything on that building because the budget was tight and I needed to. It was crazy.
Yeah, you bootstrapped it through and took the lemons that life gave you. And as I heard one of my boys' hockey coaches say the other day, take lemons and turn them into a lemon and shit sandwich.
At some point, yes, it was, especially during COVID. It was, man. So going back to like risks, you had mentioned like taking risks. Not everyone has the ability to take risks. I have some friends, like, so while I got out of true architecture after leaving Goettsch, my role at the furniture company was to work with designers and architects, honestly, on their furniture needs, like the interior build out. And so I got to meet a ton of architects, got to go into a ton of different architecture firms. A good buddy of mine works at Gensler, and he keeps telling me like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, well, I can help you so much, only so much, but you got to take that leap. Like you got to kind of just risk, not everything, but there's got to be some sort of tolerance for risk to get into maybe entrepreneurship or owning your own business or whatever however you define it. There's a major risk. And is it worth it? I mean, I would never go back to work for anyone. Some days I think about it because it's like, wouldn't it just be nice to have
there's something nice about just having a job,
paycheck, and you just know things are okay and you have health insurance and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, that's not fun at all.
When you built, you're a builder, you're a maker, like you love creating things. And I know, the customer relationships and all those things are offshoots of things that you're also passionate about that you click into, but you love creating things. So even talking about, bringing an EOS into the business is just applying, a level of structure to growing this thing where now it's not just owning a restaurant, it's owning a restaurant group essentially.
Yeah. Right.
Is that fair to say? So what's going on now?
Yeah, we have, so I still have Shane's. It's what kind of my lunch go to every day. And what's crazy about this is that I think there's kind of, I would say 6 different locations, 5 different businesses, all in Wheaton. And like to give some context, Wheaton is like a town of about 55,000 people. It's growing a little bit, but it's directly west of Chicago, about, depending on the traffic, let's just use miles, like 25, 30 miles outside of Chicago. If you're not familiar with Wheaton, it's just north of Naperville. But it's kind of, it used to be a really quiet, sleepy, very Christian downtown. With, at one point it had the most churches per capita. We go to church in Wheaton, so not bashing it, I'm part of it, but
you opened the brewery next door.
What's that?
You opened the bar next door to the church. Smart.
Yeah. There's actually a rule. There was a brewery that was trying to come in, and I don't know if it's a state or if it's a Wheaton rule, but a brewery that, like a business that's sole business is selling alcohol, can't be within like 50 feet of the front door of a church. And so there was this Methodist church and this brewery that was going to open right next door, but because their main business was selling alcohol, they couldn't, which was great because they were trying to copy 302. But anyway, but yeah. So what's crazy is that who starts that many businesses, and most of them like food and beverage, all in the same town. And is that sustainable? Like, it's crazy. But what I know the town well. I grew up here. I always say I'll die here. Like, I love Wheaton. It's a special community, special, like, of special people. And you either embrace it, or as I say, you move out to California like my sisters. So I've embraced it. And so it's Shane's, it's 302. We opened a second location on the south side of Wheaton called 302 South. There's a food truck now. That was a COVID result of COVID. And then after I opened, it was kind of in that order. So Shane's, the 302s, and then I opened a little speakeasy called Subourbon. That was a semi-private cocktail bar. After that, the dream was this project that I'm sitting in right now called Dough in the Backyard. And that's a pizza sports bar and event space. So I'm sitting in the event space right now. And then we just recently opened up the Guild, which is a bookstore, cafe, bar, and bistro, kind of in one space, which is kind of crazy. And that's actually in the same building as Subourbon. So Suburbon's in the basement, and then the Guild is upstairs. So it's a lot.
That's awesome. And so how are you coming up with these concepts?
So yeah, back to, like, I grew up in Wheaton. You kind of know what Wheaton needs and who those people are, and what, like, Wheaton's missing. So initially 302 was, you know what, there's really no good family friendly place in Wheaton. Like, Shane's is one, but not for dinner. And so as a young family with young kids, you can go out to different restaurants, but if your kid throws a tantrum, which they all do, it's like, we should probably go. And so 302, the concept there is, let's create a space where kids can kind of roam free within a gated area. Parents can enjoy a meal, and there's really, really good craft beer that's always changing, that's local. And so you combine those things. And what's interesting is that 302 is meant for those young families, but really they're like, we get middle schoolers that come in, just that get like a side of fries with their Starbucks after school. We get the older crowd that eats dinner at 4:00, and then it rolls into family time. And then we host trivia, and we get kind of a later night crowd. So it's really a space for everybody, which was pretty cool to see that kind of evolve.
No, I love it. And so many is, I don't know how many breweries in Chicagoland have food, because I love the brewery vibe and I love beer. And so I'd always enjoy going there. But when they don't have food, it's like hard to make it into, hey, let's go to dinner with the family and sit outside and like these super cool spaces. Yeah. So, I mean, we see that down here in North Carolina a fair amount too. There's just, they'll bring in food trucks or something like that, but still not the same. So, it's like, I'm sure looking back, it's kind of a no brainer.
Yeah. 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 It's the one concept right now that is very scalable. And we tried to scale a little bit. I've been looking at properties right now, and the way that any of these businesses start is with the building. And so I see this building and I see this opportunity, and then I have this knowledge of what's missing in Wheaton. And then you kind of, the very first thing I do is I design out the space. I'm like, could this be cool? Does this work? Can a kitchen fit in there? So it's not necessarily a business plan. It's, this building's really cool. I mean, like, look at this thing. Like,
it's unbelievable. I know.
really cool.
Before we started talking, I was like, how the heck did you find this? What was it? And you said it was storage.
It was storage. It was in the back of this like art store, and they were just storing school supplies and other supplies. And honestly, their personal stuff. Like, so they kept a car in here of theirs, and there's nothing else like it. And so I start designing. I get on SketchUp and I start drawing stuff up, and that's like, okay, this could be cool. So then I use kind of the restaurant business side that I've learned over time and create a business plan for it. And those business plans are almost worthless because you don't really know what the sales are going to be. You know some of the costs, but it's just a shot in the dark. And so every investor wants to know, hey, what is this? What can this do? Have you run the numbers? But really at the end of the day, don't trust the numbers. You got to trust the operator. So many of my investors are like, Eric, we didn't invest in 302 because it was going to be a good restaurant. We invested in you. So if anybody's out there, you got to, it again, comes back to people and trust and how you treat those people and kind of what that relationship is like. It's kind of life.
Yeah, no, this is so good, man. What about, so when is Dough in the Backyard opening?
It opened in June.
Oh, it is open. You're just hanging out in the event space back there. That is unbelievable. So what kind of events have you guys been hosting so far?
The Bears, they have been doing well.
Yeah.
So this place was packed full of Bears and a few Packer fans last week. It's closed usually during the day unless someone wants to rent it out for an office, like a work meeting or something like that. But we typically host live music on Friday night, Saturday night. I'll be hosting trivia tonight. The way that Dough in the Backyard works is that Dough is up front in the building. We've got about 8,000 square feet. So about 3,000 in the front with like a full service restaurant, 3,000 in the back where I'm sitting, and then kitchen and bathroom kind of in between. So I call it the mullet. You've got business up front and then party in the back. And so I'm the party in the back right now. It's not much of a party, but yeah, I mean, it's just wide open space where the community can gather, even in a winter snowstorm, feel like they're outside and do kind of anything. I mean, we're doing a silent disco. I've never done that before. So I've got all these like headphones from this place, and we're going to test that out and see if people get into that. But live music seems to be working really, really well. And then just sports. We got a big projection screen, great sound system. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And then any idea what's next, or you're just waiting for the next incredible building or space to show its face to you?
So in the Subourbon and the Guild building, it's one of the oldest buildings in Wheaton. I think it's 150 years old as of this year. So we've got part of the basement, we've got the first floor, and then what we're looking to do on the second floor is actually open a hotel. So I know, right?
Yeah, let's go.
So why not? So do kind of hotel up on top floor, cafe, bistro in the middle, and then kind of a little speakeasy downstairs.
You know, Meg and I had, and you know Meg, but for listeners, my wife and I, way back before we had kids, we went back to Blacksburg, Virginia to a football game and stayed in this little like motel with this, little Asian couple just ran the hotel, and it was just like kind of charming, and it had the balconies on the outside that were painted orange and maroon, and we're like, I think we just want to own a little hotel like this. We want to be like that couple.
Doesn't it sound so fun? And like when you think about hospitality, hotels, like that
it.
Seems to be where, but I mean, you can do hospitality anywhere. But it just seems like there's the movie, That Thing You Do. And at the end of the movie, they're staying at some hotel, maybe in LA or something like that. And there's this guy, like kind of the doorman, bellman, whatever you want to call him, named Lamar. And he's like, I'm Lamar and welcome to my hotel. And then it's like, hey, I want to listen to some jazz. And he's like, oh, get in the car. Let me take you. So I think that the end goal for me is to open this hotel, maybe open a couple more 302s, and I don't know, we'll see. But I would love to just, like, Wheaton is, like, people call me the mayor. I don't want to be the mayor, but I know a lot of people here, and it's really fun because I'm so excited about, like, our community and the different things.
Absolutely.
To be that guy to welcome people into our community and then direct them to have a great time in our community. So yeah, I'm going to be a bellman when I graduate, when I grow up.
I could see that. I think the red suit and the hat works.
Yeah, right.
Well, I know you've got interns that are coming and you got to run, but this has been like the coolest. This is a fascinating conversation to me. I think there's so much about business and culture, being laser focused, taking risks, caring about your clients or your customers, and building out things that they appreciate, and then continuing to nurture that. And because you're coming from the number one failed business industry, and I'm coming from the number two failed business industry of construction. So they're both really, really, really hard, that take a massive amount of time, energy, and investment, and have a pretty significant risk profile. But you and I, we've been able to hang on this long and kind of click into something that that people enjoy and appreciate. I think so much of it, honestly, comes from, like, your passion and energy. It's just natural, right? And some of the best, like Jonathan Siegel, like design, build developers, kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, there's the business part of it, and they're business savvy, and yeah, they know their numbers and they understand all that. But the heart of it is just this energy and this this personal need to bring something special to the world, and get excited about that. And then it's a lot of work, it's a lot of running around and getting stuff done, but, like, that's kind of foundational. So
yeah.
And if anyone watching this is in architecture school or a young architect, and they're like, oh, great, I'm going to get out of architecture now and go open restaurants, that's not the intent here. Because I always get a little bit sad when great designers leave the profession. But to your credit, you're still building awesome spaces and bringing your design sense to the world.
Totally.
And so much of what you've done in your entrepreneurial world comes from the world of what we were talking about in that crazy architectural training, figuring out what we didn't like doing, figuring out what we were good at, what we weren't good at, so much of that stuff in our young careers. And it's really cool. Anyway, that was my whole diatribe. Anything else you want to end with?
Stay in school, architecture school. It's the greatest. I don't even know, like what's a good architecture school these days. Like, that's the other thing is, like, I remember going back and, like, looking at the top architecture schools. Like, it doesn't really matter what school you go to, I feel like, anymore. It's what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And then, I mean, I remember my first interview, my boss at Goettsch, he's like, hey, can you leave early? I need you now. And he was trying to convince me not even to finish school.
That sounds like Steve.
It was Steve.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Steve. And it's just, yeah, it's people, it's you, and it's connections. And then there is this, like, not every architect is going to have the drive, not like the crazy drive that either I have or it's in me. And what's interesting is that as I look back at all the different like positions that I had, and I see where I am today, each one kind of fed me something different that I needed to be in the right seat, which I am in right now, I think. Maybe there's another job in the near future that has nothing to do with restaurants, and I sell them all or I close them all or whatever. But what I would tell anybody that's listening to this, whether you're a student or a business professional, you got to take, and it might not be clear right now, but every opportunity that you have is growing you, whether it's easy or hard. The hard ones are growing you faster. So if you're in a difficult position, you're learning. That's the hardship is you're learning the most right now. And if your job is super easy right now, then you're probably not growing. But every opportunity that I had, and I didn't know it at the time, was grooming me to be where I should be right now. And so if you feel stuck, this might not be for you, but you're learning something. So you like hold on to or try to write down what you're learning or save it in the back of your mind. And then, I mean, everyone should, I think, pursue what they really want to do. Because then as soon as everyone says, like, as soon as you like love what you do, then it's not work anymore.
Yeah. I love it, man. It's all exactly right.
Not that I'm doing it right, but it sounds good, right?
No, we're all figuring it out. You know, we have our good
Yeah.
days and our bad days, and we have our successes and our failures, and we're learning the whole way. But you know, just to kind of put an exclamation point on what you just said, you know, we've had some young employee hires, and we've had these exact conversations because we're a growing company and we're throwing people into situations that they don't know about and maybe they're
Yep.
not comfortable in, and we need them to do it. And it's total meltdown, right? Like it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all you can do is just coach them through and say, hey, you know, nobody's going to die because of this. We're going to get there. It's going to be hard. And I promise you, in those 3 weeks of that like compressed chaos and stress is
Yep.
worth a year of learning.
Exactly. Totally. They should be paying us for it.
Yeah, right. And we don't want it to be like that. We want a level of stability, obviously, but there are these opportunities of when even, you know, you and I, when we just at the, you know, in our older age now or middle age, there's still those moments where we, you know, dive fully into something that we need to address that's uncomfortable and work through it and learn so much still, and then apply that moving forward. Well, if you're just sitting there, you know, writing emails, answering emails all day, yeah, you're probably not learning as much still as we can.
Yeah,
Or
totally.
having, you know, we should be having more conversations like this. So I learned a
Yep.
lot today. This is really cool. Eric, this is awesome, man. Lastly, how can people find you in your restaurants and track you down?
We are in Wheaton. I am somewhere in a 1 mile radius. So you could probably find me. I usually wear a backwards hat and a sweatshirt. But yeah, no, really, because I'm managing so many different restaurants right now, I actually created a hospitality group called the 302 Group. So it's just www.302group.com.
Awesome. And you can find everything from there.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Great to see you. Best to Kate and the family. Yeah. And yeah, let's keep in touch.
Sounds good.
Next time I'm around, I'm swinging through Wheaton. I gotta check out I've only been to 302, so I gotta see all the newer spots.
Totally. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Take
Dave.
care.
Yep.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.